Hey, what's up everybody? This is Joshua Casper and welcome to another review. Today we're checking out Magic Stereo by Singomakers, which is a stereo width plugin. It's really simple, but I think it was designed that way for someone who is in the middle of producing and wants to keep the creative juices flowing, but at the same time wants to spruce up the sound by widening up maybe a lead or something quickly and easily. The simplicity of the plugin is, in my opinion, both its strength and its weakness. And I'm gonna go through kind of why I think that is. But in terms of strength, it really allows you to be workflow oriented because you're not getting bogged down by 50 million different parameters that you need to tweak and adjust. You've got 7 presets and a dry wet slider, and that's it. That's what you can work with. And each one of those presets has a different configuration in terms of processing, and they've given you kind of pretty clear ideas of what they're best used with. So, we have your leads, your bass, your kick, your drums, and the special, which is really kind of out there. What I've done is I've added the Magic Stereo to 3 tracks in this little project I have going here, and we're going to go through and I'm going to show you the drum example, the lead example, and then the bass example so you can hear the differences there. And then in the later part of this tutorial, we're actually going to do some detective work to see what's happening to the signal. I'm going to run it through a phase correlation meter, and I've already done it and I got some really positive results, so that's something to look forward to. And then we're going to run it through the EQ8 to see what is being widened in terms of frequencies for each one of these different types of presets, or at least a few of them. But anyway, let's just go ahead and listen to the project and then dive right into A being with the Magic Stereo. Okay, so that's the project we're working with here. And the first thing we're going to look at is the lead, which sounds like this. And that's with the Magic Stereo, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it on and off so we can hear what the effect is on the audio. So as you can hear, the lead is already pretty wide, but the preset here, lead 2, almost into the red zone, is really pushing it out even further. And I think it makes some of the really panned audio sound a little bit better, sit a little bit better in the stereo field. One thing that is kind of a drawback is the reverb of the actual sample. It's hard baked into the sample, and the Magic Stereo is pushing that reverb out into the stereo field a little bit too much in my opinion, but I mean, it's still doing the job. For this type of track, it doesn't really matter, but again, for simplicity's sake, throwing this on here and cranking up the knob just a tad really adds to the sound and keeps me moving in terms of production. The next one is the bass. So let's go ahead and solo that and listen to the bass channel now. That's with the Magic Stereo, and here's without. So here's a big difference and definitely a big improvement. I really think that the bass sounds better with the Magic Stereo bass preset cranked up to about halfway through the yellow there. So let's see what happens if we turn it all the way wet. So it's much wider here, but for something like a sub, I don't think it's appropriate. So that's why I left it right around this halfway through the yellow here. So that's pretty cool. There's a different one. If we A-B or go back and forth between the bass and the bass 2, we can see what the difference is here. Here's with the bass. And here's with the bass 2. So there is a difference there. I can hear it. So it's going to be your preference. But one thing I really frustrates a producer like me is I can't see what the different process is. And I want to know, not only do I want to know, but I want to be able to tweak it a little bit to make it perfect. You know, like on that lead, I was saying the lower end of the reverb was being pushed out too much, and it would be nice if I could get in and adjust the filtering at least as to what was being processed. But again, I think Magic Stereo, the point of the plug is just to be simple and not let you be bogged down by too many options. And the next one we're going to check out is the drum loop, which has the Magic Stereo drums, and it's all the way wet. Let's see what that sounds like. So here it's a very, very small amount of stereo width going on, and it seems like it's applied to the mid-range specifically and not to the highs and not to the lows, which is, you know, something that you might want to do. You might want to keep that in mind for something like the bass too. I don't think they did that particularly for the basses, and we're going to check that out later in the tutorial, but I think the drums, it really does a good job. You know, I might even use this in my regular production. Just throw it on, wet it up, and just enjoy a little bit fuller bodied drums from the Magic Stereo plugin. So one of the things that I really like about the Magic Stereo in terms of widening out the sound is it makes your sound louder, but it doesn't decrease the volume, the overall volume, which if you put something like the utility device in Ableton on a track and crank up the width, you're going to lose a lot of the main volume. That doesn't happen with the Magic Stereo. And the other thing I really like about Magic Stereo is that it doesn't cause any or not a lot of phase correlation issues. So we can check that out. So I have a plugin here called Stereo Tool version 3. It's a free stereo imaging tool that you can go download. I'll leave links on the blog. We're going to drop that on the track, and I'm going to open up Magic Stereo. And what we're going to pay attention to is the phase correlation meter down here. And what this is telling us if things are in or out of phase. And we want to be above 0 and a little bit closer to +1, which means we don't have any phase cancellation issues. If you get below 0 or all the way to -1, you're getting into trouble. -1 is going to completely cancel itself out. -1 means is that on the left and the right channel, you have the exact opposite waveform, and when the two waveforms hit each other, they cancel each other out and you get silence. So that's generally a bad idea. So the phase correlation meter just kind of shows us, you know, how far along or how close we are to something like that. I like to stay, when I'm using the stereo tool, I like to keep my sound, you know, the sweet spot is between -6 and -1 on the left and right amplitude meter over here, but I like to keep the phase correlation meter in that sweet spot. It's just a good marker to use. So let's check it out. Let's see what happens. I'm going to turn off Stereo Magic for a second, and let's see where the bass is in general on the phase correlation meter down here. So as you can see, we're really hovering right around +1 and a little bit below, which is good. It's where definitely a bass should be. And another quick note about Stereo Tool, if you click the plug, it will update every time you click. It will update the marker here in terms of phase every time you click. So otherwise it's just gonna average everything out, but if you click it, it will update. See how I clicked and it moved? So without clicking, it's just kind of giving me this average, but if I click a lot, it will move around a lot more to where the phase correlation is at that moment in time. Just a side note there. Let's go ahead and turn on the Magic Stereo and see what it does to our phase correlation. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. So as you can see, we're not peaking quite as high, but we have a much wider sound without getting anywhere dangerously close to 0 and definitely nothing below, which is another problem that some stereo width plugins run into. It has to do with that phase cancellation issue, but I don't see any of that. Even when I use the lead, which really pushes things out. I never get any phase cancellation issues, and that's a really solid look from the Singomakers team for keeping an eye on something like that. It's really important. Next thing I want to do is let's throw an EQA on this lead and check out what is being pushed out to the side. So the way we can do that is actually taking utility, and I'm going to bring the width, put it before the magic stereo. I'm going to take the width and I'm going to bring it all the way down to 0. So now we have a completely mono signal. Let's turn off stereo magic for a second. And the way we can make sure of that is by the mode over here on the EQ8. We can go to mid side and flip it to the side. And in the spectrum here, we should be able to see what's coming through, which is nothing. So all of that is in the middle or the center, and here's what's on the side, which is nothing. So now if we turn on stereo magic, we should start to see some audio signals in the side of the audio field, and it will be represented in here. And if we go through the presets, we can see how that representation changes to get a better understanding of what those presets are actually doing to the audio. So here we have some stereo signal now. That's fun. Let me put this over here. Let me see the best way to do this. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep it down there in the corner here. So that's the lead. Let's crank it all the way up just to get a little better. So, for instance, doing something like this lets me know that bass 2 is letting a lot more of the lower end through than the bass 1 preset is. And that's denoted over here. If we go ahead and check that, you'll see that bass 1, the range to about 100 hertz is going to be a lot less pronounced than when we're on bass 2. So here's bass 1. And here's bass 2. So you can see that we're getting a lot higher peaks in the sub-E end, which you need to be careful of and you want to use quite sparingly, especially on the sub end of your sound. Something to think about. So let's check out the kick. So you can see that here Magic Stereo is really focusing in around, I don't know, 500 hertz to 1 kilohertz here. That's what it's pushing out. So it's really dropping off all of that sub, which is definitely a good idea on a kick. And it's not really focused anything on the top end here because, well, kicks usually don't have that high frequency stuff going on. Let's check out the drums. So here again, we're focused on that mid-range, but it's got a lot more push to it. It's the kick. So it's got a lot more push to it, and it's up a little bit higher. It's definitely more focused on that 1K area as opposed to a little bit below. And also we've introduced some higher frequency width to it as well. So, because drums in general are going to have cymbals and higher tonal percussion, and it's a good idea to push that out as well, and that's what they've done there. And the last one we can do is check out the special. The special is a lot fuller body. I'd say they're just pushing a lot more out to the side than the other presets. And again, I want to go back to that lead real quick because I just noticed the leads are pushing a lot more of the higher spectrum out to the sides, which you would expect because leads have a lot of higher end content. But anyway, I mean, that's just what I did because the plugin doesn't tell me anything about what those presets do. And again, I'm a kind of an audiophile, so I want to know. And that's just a good tool to use for something like this, for something like me who wants a better understanding of what's happening to the audio, to use that spectrum inside the EQ8. But again, I don't think that's what the plugin's designed for. I really think the plugin's designed to be quick and easy and to not let you lose focus of producing, dialing in a million parameters. So on that note, again, I want to repeat myself. The simplicity is its strength and its weakness. In my opinion, I will use it when I need something, a quick answer, and to add a little bit of polish to the stereo field of something. But for a really serious track that I'm spending a lot of time and effort into sound design, I'm not too sure I'm going to be using the plugin too much in that respect. But, to each his own. I figured we'd go in depth with this one. And I appreciate Singomakers sending it out to let me test drive. Anyway, there's links to everything on the website. I hope you learned something. We'll see you next time. Peace.